Welcome to the Fine Print, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Caleb Teskey, and today I'm joined by Yvonne
Either one's fine.
Yvonne Pudan and Cindy Pudan-Silva from Snowbird Botanicals in Barnet, Vermont. Guys, thanks. It's been a while here, and I'm glad to finally have you on board.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Cool. I like to start the beginning of all my shows with a 5-minute life story from all my guests, where maybe you guys tell us a little bit about your background, and we go from there.
Sure. All right. So let's see. 30-second elevator pitch. My family's originally from Trinidad and Tobago. Cindy's is originally from Peru. We both individually lived all over the world. Different states and countries. We honestly didn't think we were going to ever get into cannabis. We always were interested for years, previously, but we both have ailments that we use cannabis in our own lives for, and our families and friends that are very close to us over the years, we've realized that they could benefit the same way. So we got into CBD. We came up here. This is our 4th season technically, so a few years ago, to learn how to grow hemp, and with the hopes of possibly one day being able to grow cannabis alongside. So one day we just came up with our tiny house that we built a few years before out of an old travel trailer, and came and learned from a few friends that were here before, and eventually we're able to, with the help of our family, be able to buy this farm and start this company, and here we are.
Yo, where did y'all meet though? You said you've been all over the world, kind of. I was hoping
South Florida. That's where we got together. But
Florida, huh? Yeah.
But we moved to Vermont together a little after getting married and getting into all of this. But really, the pandemic, I think, almost helped us make that full transition of, okay, we're just gonna leave our jobs. We're gonna leave our regular 9 to 5, and then we're gonna go all in on this because this is what we want to be doing. This is the life we want.
So what were y'all doing before this?
So we are also co-owners of a company down in South Florida called AccuTour. We create 3D digital media for real estate, so for real estate sales. That's what we've done the last few years. That company is still active. We have business partners that are running that. We are no longer day-to-day involved with the company. Cindy as well managed a print shop, Mint Prints, down in South Florida.
Cool.
And so it all kind of intertwines with what we like and what we do and what we just kind of found ourselves being good at. We really didn't know. So, and we really never thought we'd be farmers. We do both come from heavy backgrounds of farmers. Our ancestors were all farmers in multiple countries, and we have always been around it. My parents have a small farm in in Central Florida, and this just kind of, we fell in love with Vermont. Honestly, we fell in love with the lifestyle here, the accessibility to nature, which is quite literally in front of you everywhere, and and it's just different from South Florida. What's happening, going on around the world and such. This is really where we love to be. Honestly. So
I bet it is a little different.
Okay. The allowance of being able to grow cannabis here, just our ability to live here safely and comfortably and enjoy our surroundings every single day. And there was a no-brainer, honestly.
Now, when you say safely and comfortably, do you come from a unsafe neighborhood down in Florida, or?
In the past, not where we just previously lived, but in the past where we've grown up. Like we were saying, we've lived in many different places because of our parents' work or because of just getting out of terrible locations. So all of that coupled with actually being in areas that were affected and still are, with cannabis situations. So that also was something that we spoke about with social equity, which I'm sure we'll get into.
We're going to get into that. Yeah.
We'll protect ourselves.
Yeah, sorry. Sometimes it's hard to just come to figure out what to say about all of the background. I mean, there's so many factors involved with our family and friends, with us personally, with health, with just moving situations, with financial situations. I mean, it has been a very, very long road, and it has been very difficult, to be quite honest. And we're not up for really hiding anything. We love being transparent. We love letting folks know who we are and what we really want to accomplish here with other folks like us around this industry here in Vermont. So please feel free, ask us whatever questions. Sometimes it's easier for us to get a guideline, and then we
yeah. So Cindy, where are you from?
Yeah.
So both my parents are Peruvian, but they left Peru by the time I was born, and they had already immigrated to Brazil. That's where I was born. I was there for 6 to almost 7 years, and then we moved to Canada. So
Wow.
Canada stint for a bit. At 16, we moved to Florida, and then that's kind of where I was most of my adult life up until right now, and our move to Vermont.
Wow. So Peru to Canada to Florida. Okay, yeah. You weren't kidding. All over the world. How about?
Yeah. And coincidentally, I was born in Canada, but never really lived there. So she's a little more Canadian than I, even though I was born there, which is quite funny. And we both actually have quite a bit of family there on both sides. So whenever we visit Canada, it's usually a big family affair. We visit everybody. I mean, it's nice.
Oh yeah. See, this is why I do the background. That's the most fun shit. All right. Now, what you guys were looking for a mixed tier 1 license, from what I understand, and I believe you've been approved. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, we were one of the first companies in the state to be approved, thankfully, and it wasn't for lack of a due diligence. I mean, there was a lot of behind the scenes work, like every single company that will see this will agree with. It's a new industry, it's new legislation. This state has, honestly, in our opinion, not because we were one of the first to be licensed or, any of that, we've been following this for years. And we understand the way that all of these processes had to be done. Everything takes time in the first place. You're dealing with the federal government, for one. And the way that Vermont has allowed folks like us, I say it quite often, we're really nobody. We're just two locals now that wanted to do this for our family and friends, and hopefully be able to help folks along the way. And for them to allow us to do this, it really means something. It's a pretty serious thing for us.
Now, what are the provisions of the mixed tier 1 license? It's like 1,000 square feet indoor and 125 plants outdoor.
Yes. So there was a little bit of a confusion with the plant count versus the amount of space allowed for the outdoor, but the CCB has clarified it over the last month or so, and everyone that we know, all the other farmers that we have spoken to, we all think that it's fully finalized and that we can follow these guidelines accordingly. Quite honestly, we're always sending emails back and forth just to make sure that what we're thinking of doing makes sense and will be approved, within our guidelines of the license, because as sure, a lot of farmers will say too, we just don't want to be flagged for anything. We want to follow the guidelines. We want this to be allowed for years to come. So there's no reason to scathe the guidelines for any reason.
We've also been scaling. We've been growing now for 4 years here, and we've been scaling down every year. It's just something that happens naturally because we don't want to overwhelm ourselves. Our team is us most of the time. I mean, we of course hire if we need anything for a big push or a harvest, or we have lots of friends, we have family that comes to visit, we get help. But at the end of the day, we are the ones that have that relationship with each plant and know which one's doing well, what's doing well, where needs focus, on what different fields we put out have different little microclimates or issues that maybe another one doesn't, and just get to know them. And I don't think you can have mass production with a high quality.
Right.
You can't.
Right, because with the last few years growing CBD, we've learned a lot about what Vermont weather has to offer. That's
I wanted to ask you, when we spoke on the phone, you guys talked about your business in the hemp market, and I was hoping that you would talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, a few years ago, there was a big hemp boom here in Vermont. A lot of bigger companies came in from other states, and which we weren't one of the companies that was a recipient of this. But what happened was a lot of farmers around us and in the state of Vermont kind of got the short end of the stick, where they were promised a lot. They used their fields, they used their equipment, they used their time, and then they weren't given anything on the back end. The deals that were said to come through did not happen. There was oversaturation of the market. There were a lot of factors that were done incorrectly. And that also is where the cannabis market didn't want that to happen, so to speak. I mean, it's a very different market, even though it's the same realm. but there were a lot of flags within the hemp market. I mean, we still have product that we've grown over the years that we can't do anything with. You know, it's the price. What happened with us specifically was we did have fairly good harvests. We did our due diligence. We had stuff that failed. We had things that worked out well. We made a lot of contacts that were, you know, trying to do the same thing as us with the legal hemp market to then transition into the legal cannabis market. But there weren't enough avenues successfully. So we have honestly been funding this company through our own personal savings for years. We haven't made there's no profit margin for hemp, for us at least. You know, there are folks out there that are doing it, and that's great. And we love seeing that and hearing that, but they're just from our experience, which is new, we didn't have the avenue set in place. But now with the cannabis market, it really is, it's so motivating because folks are reaching out from all sides. You know, we're contacting dispensaries, wholesale markets. There are a lot of folks coming to us and asking us to be involved, which is great because everyone is just trying to do good business. And that's what we really want. We want to be involved with folks that want to be transparent and honest and bring safe, healthy products to folks, you know, our communities.
And we've made relationships with other, or at least are starting to, with other smaller farms, like, you know, old growth organics, you just knock them over. And, you know, things like, if you're two small farmers, you can get together and you can provide what a you know, retail location might need. And I think those kind of partnerships can be done and are sustainable between a bunch of small businesses rather than one big monopoly, one big mass field, one big thing that can't really be taken care of, rather than a bunch of little ones that are all being very well taken care of. And I think that's what we need to be cultivating.
Yeah, and that goes for hemp. So flower for CBD, you know, THC flower and products, as well as industrial hemp around the corner. I mean, we're very close with a company called Zion Growers, and they are doing some amazing things.
I'd love to speak with them. They're up in St. Johnsbury, and that is my neck of the woods. I'm from Lindenville, so I'd love to get in touch with them if you could.
Yeah, I'm sure we could. So Travis and Brendan, they're great.
They bought the old they bought that old ETHKI building out there in St.
Yeah. So
cool.
We'll definitely get you in touch with them. They're great, and they've got a lot of very, very cool ideas in the works, and I know that they're
that'd be wonderful
up for a chat.
Yeah, and they've really become like family to us out here because we from our family, and we've had to kind of create our own, and we're happy with our little family we're building.
Yeah, that's another thing for Vermont, you know, that we have to say. Everyone is so inviting. You know, we are completely new, and this is a community that seems to hold its residents, which is great because everyone that's here wants to stay here. They raise their kids here. Anyone leaves, they like to come back, and we really see the value in that. And we're just really happy that we found this place. It was really just on a whim, and we're never going to leave.
Now, has Barnet had an opt-in vote yet?
So I don't believe they were on the ballot with St. Johnsbury. Don't quote us on this, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't think we were big enough to have any type of vote in our town.
So maybe that's included in the St. J vote, which passed.
Yes, I do believe it was.
The St. J one definitely passed. Boy, it was close.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I think there are a few folks that are trying to open up a dispensary in St. J, and we're really stoked. You know, any type of local businesses that we can work with.
Yeah, Matt Racing, I believe.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah, I had him on a few weeks ago.
Yeah. Actually, they did send us. Now that you say the name, they did send us an email, and they're great. We're really excited.
He seems like a really nice guy. Maybe I'm reading him wrong. I don't know. If he's a jerk, he fakes it really well.
No, well, we've heard from friends of friends that they knew them before. And, you know, like everyone around here sort of might know someone from the past or from school or something. And that's really great because references mean a lot, you know, in a community like this. So that's why
it's a small world in Vermont, you know?
Right. And we really do like that, too, because, you know, when you're dealing with big corporations and such, folks really don't care. And, you know, they don't really mind not, you know, doing bad business, so to speak.
So not invested.
Yeah, so here we do feel that it's different. Folks really care. You know, you're doing small business transactions, and it's meaningful.
Do you guys grow in Florida?
No, we're not able to. If we were allowed in the future, we would love the opportunity to try.
Why not? Why are you not able to? Tell me a little bit about the environment down in Florida, if you wouldn't mind.
So as far as the climate and such, or as far as the
home grow, medical, retail, where are we at? I've been focusing mostly on Vermont, so it's
honestly,
hard for me to check.
I have to say, in the last few years, we have too, because we've
Okay.
completely kind of given up the possibility of even having the chance there in Florida. So we,
I mean, to Vermont.
Yeah,
that's what we think of.
That's pretty much what we did. So we do have a few folks and contacts and friends down there that have been trying to obtain any type of licensure for the last few years, and we haven't heard anyone really been successful. It's funny because you hear that and actually you see and read the legislation, but then you go to Miami and there are folks selling cannabis on the streets. You know, there are people with storefronts popped up, and they're not dispensaries, they're pop-up shops, and the police officers are right there. It's different.
Like a bodega.
Yeah, it's very loose style legislation, legality going on down there, which I don't know. It's very confusing. But all in all, as long as if it's getting to the folks that need it,
Can I ask you? I have a note here about Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome.
Oh, Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome.
Yeah. Was that you, Cindy? Yeah.
Yeah,
because you were talking, I believe, about treating that with cannabis. I'd like to hear about that, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, so that's something that I have, and I had no idea that really the chronic pain I was always trying to manage stemmed from that. But really, at the end of the day, the doctors just want to prescribe you a bunch of pain medicine. They're not really interested in trying to manage symptoms or even kind of discover what you have. They prescribed me many different types of painkillers, and then I was starting to have really bad side effects.
Would you mind running down a list of a couple of those?
Yeah, I mean, they'll start with like maybe stronger Tylenols, 800s, or the ones you need the prescription for. They've done oxycodone mixed with acetaminophen, benzodiazepam, like muscle relaxants, different things like that. None of them really sit well with me. I don't have a good reaction to any of them. Lots of side problems, lots of side effects, lots of nausea, just not fun. It's like, okay, you're in pain or discomfort, you choose. And CBD doesn't do any of that for me. CBD will just help manage my pain. It's not a cure-all. It doesn't, take everything away every time, but it always helps you manage. And that, to me, is what drew me to it more and more. And honestly, the THC combined, it's a perfect combination. You're able to manage a lot of symptoms with it. And a lot of people that are managing chronic conditions find that CBD does that for them. And I wish I was a doctor and I knew exactly what it was doing at every point in time. Sometimes, my pinky joint doesn't want to work and I take CBD and all of a sudden pinky joint's fine. It's like I'm the Tin Man, CBD is my oil, and it just keeps going.
Do you have issues with like mobility or dexterity?
So it's hypermobility that I have. So kind of everything is a little bit too lax.
Jesus.
Yeah, there's nothing really holding me well together. It's like a marshmallow instead of your proper,
She's my squishy.
So
and you find that CBD will help you with pain relief and not leave you with the nausea that you get from maybe an opioid or something like that.
Yeah, no stomach problems, no nausea, no feeling weird effects, nothing.
And so were you guys making your own CBD products when you were in the hemp market, I assume? Yeah,
and we still do. So
what are you guys making? Yeah, talk about your product line. What you got?
So we have two formulations of CBD oil, a 750 milliliter and 1500 milligram. And we chose those formulations just based on some research that over the years of other brands, what their content is, and doing blind trials and reading a lot of research of blind trials. And we've come to understand that most CBD brands in the United States, not isolated anywhere specifically, they just don't have the content of what the labels actually say. And it's mostly because of the way everything is put together. Most people that are in this industry, they understand what biomass is, the entire plant coupled together, stems, everything all in one. And that's really not what we do. We use top flower for our CBD oil, and we don't mix it with anything. Our oil honestly does not taste the best. We weren't going for the taste. We weren't going for the smell. We were going for the actual content and its whole plant. And it has all of the components that we have been able to cultivate and offer. So we use our same flower to create topicals. We have CBG that we've grown over the past few seasons, and CBG is something that still a lot of folks in this industry or outside don't have any idea what it is and what it does for you. That's another cannabinoid that's isolated, and it can do wonders. I personally use CBG every day myself, and it helps me focus. It does not contribute to getting you high or any of those other applications. It quite literally just helps your within the neurology. I don't really know the science behind it, but cognitive, yes.
So that's one of those non-psychoactive cannabinoids.
Yes, and we love sharing that with friends and family around. Anyone that actually, we've helped a few folks wean themselves off of smoking cigarettes using CBG as a substitute, and seen very positive effects, rather, for lack of a better term. So,
and the salves as well for things like pain, or things like if you have, I would assume things like arthritis too, considering the joint pain is similar, that the salves, they make a world of difference. You're in pain, you can go and pop a couple of pills, but it doesn't have that same effect. It feels a lot better. You just throw the salve on and you feel better.
Yes,
I have the psoriatic arthritis, and I've been experimenting with, I had one somewhere, I don't know where it went. I've been experimenting with a few. It's hard to tell though, because it seems like, things with an anti-inflammatory effect sometimes don't have an immediate effect. Sometimes you have to wait a day or two, so you don't really, maybe you wouldn't really notice it,
recognize it from the
right? It's like eating good food. Like, it's not going to have an immediate effect. It takes a little while to build up in your system, so you might not associate what you've done with the positive effect that it's having.
Understood. Yes, Cindy always uses this example of, everyone knows and takes vitamin C every day, but you don't know what actual effect it's doing for you. It's the same thing with CBD oil. It should be a normal regimen. Our bodies, Cindy might be able to explain a little bit more with the cannabinoid system in our bodies. I mean, there's a reason we have it. There's a reason why our bodies react correctly to cannabinoids. So if a human body was made with a system to then not have an item, that really doesn't make any sense. Is there any more? Did I kind of say what? I'm sorry.
That we have an endocannabinoid system, that it exists, that we have receptors to, intake what cannabis has to offer. It really is the argument in itself of, we probably should be having an intake of it at a certain level,
right,
if our bodies are made to take it. So it's something like, it's more than even just taking a vitamin or something, because there isn't an actual system for just vitamin C. There isn't an actual system for just any of these other vitamins. It's just things that they know are good for you. But here we have an entire system.
Do we have an Oxycontin system?
There is no oxycodone system. No.
That's exactly the point.
You cannot find it in the human body.
Weird.
So those kind of things, when we learn those tidbits, it just makes us more excited to share this type of information with anyone that will listen, because so many folks can benefit from it. And a lot of people, I'm sorry.
No. I didn't mean to interrupt. I'd really like to know more about this the Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Like, what are the symptoms, and how exactly does cannabis help you treat those symptoms?
So in general, it's actually very hard for people to get a diagnosis. Sometimes it's hard for doctors to even recognize that their patients have it. I've had symptoms since I was a kid, and I was diagnosed at like 28.
It's very rare, so a lot of doctors don't even recognize the symptoms.
Because what happens is, a lot of like that marshmallow concept is, instead of your proper ligaments and tissues, you'll have more of a marshmallow. But the problem is, it's not just your ligament and tissues, it's also your hollow organs, it's your bladder, it's your stomach, it's your intestines. So you'll have problems in all of these places. And it's not easy to catch. You know, if somebody's having digestive issues, they'll just go to gastro, you know, and they might not be able to notice.
Right. Do you think that's an issue, is how doctors sort of look at things on a like sort of a specific basis, and we're not evaluating like a systemic problem as a whole?
Yeah, that's always been an issue for us with doctors, is that they think very small picture. They don't look at the whole picture. They don't get the whole picture, and they miss a lot without all of that information. We've had a better care system here in Vermont. We've noticed a huge difference in the care, the quality of care, at least that we've received. We have a doctor that listens to us a lot, that is interested in that whole picture, and we've been working for a little over a year together for both of us, different things. We see them quite often, unfortunately. But the things that you will experience chronically would be pain, would be from small subluxations, dislocations that wouldn't be normal for the average person to be having. So you wouldn't think you're actually even dislocating, because that wouldn't make sense.
Right. Jaw, shoulder, hip.
Yeah. I mean, I've dislocated my jaw twice from sneezing. You wouldn't even think that's possible.
So I actually saw someone break their rib from a bong hit, so I would believe it.
New fear unlocked. I don't know what my body's incapable of yet, so I don't want to put it to the limits like that. But it is a little bit like being in an 80-year-old body, no matter how old I am, because ever since I was young, I would kind of complain about pain, or if I would play a sport, I'd always be sore after. I just could never kind of hang, and I was like, what's stopping me?
Damn. And so how long have you been using cannabis to try to sort of treat those symptoms?
So I would say for at least from 2015 on, because I had a tonsillectomy after a couple of bouts of strep throat that I had that kept recurring about 10 times.
That sucks.
Got rid of them, and after that, I mean, obviously because it's like a throat thing, I wasn't smoking, but the pain management I needed after that operation was intense. I mean, even drinking like half a little teaspoon of painkiller was painful. So
damn. The painkiller was painful.
Yeah, it was a lose situation. It was just felt impossible to get there, but got through it and managed pain ever since with just THC, edibles, smoking. Really, smoking, I know it's not the best for your lungs, but smoking has been like the most instant relief for when I've had a flare.
A big joint.
Big, little, doesn't matter. Always on hand in case of emergency.
Yeah, and we were saying earlier, you know, that folks, we were saying that you can still operate while using cannabis, but on the contrary, for us, we use it in order to operate. You know, whenever we have our, you know, the ailments flare up, in order for us to do what we have to do on this farm, we use cannabis as a tool. You know, we would be unable to do what we have to do without it. We should say it, I guess, simple and plain.
Start everything with a joint.
I'd like to second that.
It's like step one.
And I mean, the more we speak to anyone that has used cannabis, even if it's for 1 month, let alone years of their life, you know, everyone will attest the same. More so, folks use it to be able to get through their days versus after a day, they'll hang out and just soak on the couch. You know, it's quite the opposite. You know, that's the old time stigma that society just kind of portrays to everyone. Kids are lazy because they smoke weed and they sit on the couch. I honestly, maybe one person out of 100 people I've spoken to over the years said that they used to do that when they were a kid. Otherwise, they've used it over their life as a tool to be successful.
None of the business owners that I know, like the growers and everyone that I've talked to, they're like, yeah, I wake up at 5 a.m. I work for 37 hours a day. And like, I don't see that kind of laziness bearing out.
Yeah.
Exactly. And, you know, it's really nice to see our families as well have come full circle. No one in our families were supportive, you know, as we were growing up.
Really?
Which is understandable, I guess, you know, from the time and where we're from and how it was demonized. But we do have to say we're super proud that our families have come full circle and they really support us. They understand, they see the medical benefits of this, these plants, and we really couldn't be doing this without them. Our parents, both sets of our parents, our siblings, our
moms are our biggest CBD oil supporters, fans, talk to all their friends.
Yeah, and they're older, so all of the anyone in their community is also getting to benefit from this, and we really love that. When we first started out, we were just giving out samples to all of their friends, trying to have them understand that this is not a drug. This is something that's viewed that way in society. This is something that will help you, and we do have their friends can now not do without it, which is great. We love that they have found something that eases their life. They're getting better sleep, less anxiety. As folks get older, things develop even more. So even if you were fine 20 years ago, now you're a little bit slower, a little bit more anxious, a little bit, there are things that.
Hey, don't talk about me like that.
So we're just really happy that it's come full circle this way and everyone can benefit.
We've kind of like converted our parents, and then our parents have slowly been able to share with their friends, and then their friends aren't as afraid. It really has helped, and we're happy for that.
Isn't that a great feeling?
Oh, it's the best. We quite honestly, we said we haven't made any money from this, from doing what we do. Hopefully we do one day, but what the benefit is when someone says that we've helped change their life positively. Again, we're nobody, we're doing this on our little farm here in Vermont, and we're able to do that for people around the world. There's no comparison, honestly.
Could I ask you guys, could we switch gears a little? Could I ask you a little bit about your cultivation methods?
Oh, yeah. So slowly, kind of naturally, we've gravitated over into regenerative farming. That's really, we were just kind of unknowingly doing it before, just without all of the closed loop cycles. Just be like, for example, we didn't have chicken poop that we were able to get from chickens here, but we were able to get it from a neighbor and use it. So we were doing kind of other things, and we've always liked different types of reusing, upcycling.
Yeah, we're fully organic. Do
you guys have chickens?
We do now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we just this season we were able to throughout the winter we've been hatching chickens and guinea birds, and Cindy is
the mother hen.
Extremely tentative caretaker for these chickens. They're the happiest chickens. They get a better treatment than me sometimes. But
he gets jealous of the chicken.
But I'm stoked because they're super happy. They're doing their job. We have them for the bugs. We have them for the shit. I'm sorry for it. We're not supposed to say. But
you can curse here. This is a safe place.
All right. Yeah, just simple things like that. We have always been, and we will continue to be fully organic. We would love to be able to have some type of certification that says that, but we understand that legality hasn't come about like that yet, for cannabis at least. And
there's also just a different concept that people have now of small business.
Mm-hmm.
There's small business, and then there's like micro small business, which is like us. It's like when you're really, really, you're just the people that you have, that's it. You really don't have like a team or anything that's behind you yet. And really,
so you guys don't have any employees. It's just the two of you right now.
Yeah, we have, like Cindy was saying earlier, we have friends and family that visit periodically and give us a hand sometimes, also to experience the place. We love sharing, where we are with our friend. We have recently had some family come into town, and that's why we rescheduled with you a few times. And
that's all right. No worries, man. It's been crazy lately.
Which was a great experience because we did have things here that they really gave us a hand with on the farm, and we're super grateful to them. But it is day to day. It is just Cindy and I. We wish we could afford to hire folks, but really we're lucky enough to have neighbors and friends that do just give us a hand. And we do a lot of bartering, which is very interesting here in Vermont. Good. And we love it. We absolutely love it. It is the way we've always wanted to live, kind of. And you can barter what you have, your time, your effort, your care, with someone else, and they do the same for you. And we're proud of our community that is something we hold dearly here.
And then in growing as well, we know that we knew that we were new going into the game, so we were just very big on trials and just running a bunch of different options and a bunch of different variables and seeing what does a little bit more do, what does a little bit less do, what does this do, what does that do, more water, less water, outdoor, indoor, mixed soil, or all bought soil, compost, how much,
Yeah.
how little, when, top dressing. Like we've
Yeah,
really played around with
For
You guys
sure.
got your own compost going and stuff?
Yeah,
Oh,
we've
yeah.
got some compost and soil that we've been building for the last few years, and we're pretty stoked about it. We did initially start with buying soil, and that's what we did for the first 2 seasons. But we've realized that we are capable of doing everything here on our farm with these closed loop systems that Cindy was speaking about. You know, rainwater collection. It's a very
Nice.
simple,
Nice.
very
You doing
simple
some of
thing
that?
to think about, but
Oh,
it's a little more intricate to make sure it's used correctly, you know. And we finally got everything set up where our plants have for the entire season so far have strictly gotten rainwater with their feeding. So
Yeah.
it's
You
pretty
really can't beat Mother Nature.
Wow.
yeah.
That's super cool. I'm into that. You
Yeah,
didn't
and
mention that on the phone.
Well,
It's not even something we think about sometimes.
Yeah.
Like it's anything special.
yeah, so I mean what else with closed loop systems?
Are you guys also connected to municipal water, or is that your sole source of water?
So we have a well here on the property. We also have a spring up at the top, but lucky enough, we haven't run dry in the last few years since we've known this property. But it's always a concern that we try. That's also the reason why we try not to deplete our groundwater too much, because realistically, you know, crops take quite a bit of water. So we try to be considerate of that. Plus, you know, we honestly cannot afford to drill another well or have something like that happen. So we try to be very conservative. And another thing with labor, so to speak, the way we care for our plants, nothing can be really done with a machine. And that's the biggest task for us, is our time just spent outside with the plants and in our greenhouse with the plants. And thankfully we love it because if we didn't, we'd be super.
You have to, right? To get
Oh,
into
yeah.
that line of work, you really have to love it.
There's honestly no comparison to what we've done in our lines of work over the years and what our bodies are capable of and what we like. I mean, I don't know if we would want to do anything else.
I never want to go back to
honest.
that.
You know, we love the open space. We love the plants. There's nothing better. Waking up and going to sleep when you want.
Now, I'd like to ask you guys, we're going to switch gears a little here. I wanted to ask you a little bit about the fire marshal stuff. Have you dealt with the fire marshal stuff? I wanted to get into some of the policies, maybe some banking and insurance, but the fire marshal stuff was something I had on my notes here.
So when we first were told by the CCB, we had been in all the meetings every week. You
follow that stuff very closely. Then.
Yeah, no, I'd advise anyone, you know, that's watching this to pay attention to those meetings. We still go on to the meetings, even though we've been approved and such. Whenever we can, I try to record them. And
wow.
Yeah, no, it just makes sense. Sometimes they throw out things in the middle of a meeting where it just makes sense for you personally. It may not make sense for every other company out there, but just I do think that had a lot to do with us being successful with our licensure when we were, because they really did give a small advice here and there. And then it was up to us to take it as we heard it and then run with it. When they came out with the information for the fire marshal situation for, you know, fire and safety, honestly, they said when they first spoke about it, they just said, you know, it'll come about, you know, during the licensure and, you know, not to worry really, but it's not really how I operate. So I immediately emailed both of the fire marshals in Vermont.
Landon Wheeler, Ben Moffitt.
Both, yes. And honestly, they were great. They responded really nicely, and they both basically said, speak to the other person. And that's when I knew that I was right to get ahead of it. Thankfully, they were, like I said, they were super nice. They both directed me to the opposite person. I contacted the CCB, said, hey, this might be something of issue if both of them don't know, you know, that we are, especially us as a company, you know, where we're located is under one of their jurisdictions. Yeah. Then Landon, I guess, got everything, the entire state. But by the time that happened, we were lucky enough to have a bit of a rapport with him, and we understood the process. He had already kind of given us an overview. So we were able to execute, and lucky enough, over the years, the way that we've just kind of set up our farm, it was within the qualification guidelines to have the inspection and approval right away. So it is a tough process right now, I understand, for folks, because they're a bit backed up, and it makes sense, you know. Again, it's another.
There's the home occupancy. Are you dealing with the home occupancy thing?
We did, but So I honestly don't remember the guidelines. I don't want to say anything incorrect here.
No, I don't either, but
But
I know
yeah,
there's different rules for
yeah.
that regarding.
Based on where we're located and how distanced we are from other structures that made you unqualify, I guess we were just lucky, honestly, of what we had to offer here as far as what our tier was going to be at the time, which now is tier 1 mixed, and the amount of employees, which is just us. It's the owners of the company, no actual employees. And what else were the guidelines for the home occupancy? I apologize, I don't remember, but luckily we didn't have
No, but
any
it
issue.
seemed like if you had if you had one employee maximum, that you didn't have to have a plan with the fire marshal or something to that effect. And then anything more than that, but I also don't want to speak out of turn, and those are things that I really don't know a ton about. I was hoping.
Some of the guidelines were for one employee or more, or for two employees or more, and we just fell under both, within the range for both, because we don't have any.
Sure.
But that also makes it difficult, because in the future we would love to be able to possibly have a few employees.
Sure.
But then we have to then requalify for all of these other guidelines. So, with growth, it comes growing pains, and then we have to reassess. And we were told that we have to add in some extra drainage stuff and things like that for other people that would be using facilities here. I think that's kind of what it was. It's the amount of people and wastewater, whether it's washing hands or, actual waste. I think that's what the contribution was for the safety of the environment, because you're going to have more people using facilities at that one site. I think that kind of was where we were able to qualify, because we didn't have that issue rather.
Now, how about this issue of transporting your product from your farm to a dispensary? Have we figured out where we're at with transportation?
So as far as I know, we as the farmers with the cultivation license are allowed to transport to our local dispensaries with our IDs and everything, intact, which we will be receiving soon, I assume.
We hope.
Yeah.
So you haven't got your IDs yet?
No, we haven't, but the CCB recently emailed, I asked that question recently to them, and they said that that also falls within the social equity program, which we're grateful for, because
when was your license or when was your application approved?
Honestly, I don't know the date. I can look for the email.
It was a little while ago, wasn't it?
It was. It was. Let me see if I can find that initial email.
And this is not like a slight on the CCB. I'm just curious, how long maybe these processes are taking to get you your actual
right. Well,
ID.
Honestly, once we had all the information in one of the meetings, they spoke about, going through all that word. So let's start from the beginning. The application process in general was hard for both parties, the applicants as well as the folks that are reviewing them, because not all of the information was known of what they needed. Does that make sense? So they gave us a list of what they needed, and luckily we've owned a few small businesses in the past, including this one that we were previously doing just hemp, and we had a lot of those ducks in a row, so to speak. Registering an LLC. I mean, things like that. Sure. It's common for us, but for a lot of folks, it was brand new. So they had to learn how to register an LLC. What type of insurance will cover us? I mean, all of those things. Everyone was kind of mixing up what you needed first, what you needed to just apply, and then what you needed to send in after the fact. So even though we sent everything that was needed, they came and asked for more. It sort of reminded me of buying a property. They just needed more information, reconfirmation. Federal government needed to step in. They changed the background check ability and company that they used right in the middle of the.
They outsourced that. They outsourced that to a third party, right? For an extra, it was like $475 or something.
Yeah, honestly, it was going to be. I think it was $500 per person is what they said, versus $60 from the FBI original check. But I understand it was out of their hands. We don't hold anyone liable for this. I mean, I do feel it from the CCB that they want this to happen. They do. They've done hard work. I really commend them. And a lot of things were out of their hands. Again, dealing with the federal government, they need to just be compliant sometimes. So we were grateful that they actually did find a meet in the middle solution. We spoke in one of the meetings as well. We gave our opinion on it, because we are social equity applicants, and we quite honestly could not afford to do this without that assistance. So that was just a kind of a slap in the face where, hey, yes, you're getting this grant to do this, but then you still have to pay some money that we just decided now is going to have to be the track. So they covered half of it.
Oh,
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you, but that seems like a good segue into the social equity thing. And you said you could not afford to do this without that. And
yeah,
I'd like to run this by you. So I am a social equity applicant, which is going to seem weird. And I hate to be the straight white guy coming out with the I'm a social equity. But like when I was 7, my dad was arrested by the feds in the biggest drug bust ever in Vermont.
wow.
It was a big seizure. It was a 50 tons of hash or whatever, you know. And so that I got to watch him get dragged away by the feds when I was 7 on the Channel 3 news. And so technically I am a social equity applicant.
Yeah, definitely.
And even with that, even if you waive the licensing fees and the application fees, like I don't have enough money to get into any part of this industry, even if I wanted to. I'm not saying I do want to, but I'm saying even if I did want to, I that's a drop in the bucket. It seems like that's the cheapest part of the industry. Like most of my friends, I've interviewed a lot of tier 1 indoor guys. They got $60,000-$70,000 just into their lights and their grow setups, you know, or a retail dispensary. Now I got to find commercial space. Like, anyway, that's my social equity story. I'd love to hear what your guys' thoughts are on that.
So the social equity, I guess they're called grants or the waivers, so to speak. It took care of pretty much all of the fees that we would have had to pay as a regular applicant. So everything from the application fee to the licensure, and now for the ID cards. We, on the other hand, though, yes, it does cover that, but that's probably 10% of the cost, you know, realistically, in order to have
I'm not crazy there. Okay.
No. In order to have an actual applicable company, we had to, over the last few years, you know, this is our 4th year, we've put in quite a bit of an investment, and realistically, it's cash. It has been just from our day-to-day work gone straight into this. And we are just lucky enough that our lifestyle, we're very minimalistic. We like I said, we moved up here in a tiny house first, and just with our truck and our tiny house. And we've just been able to put our savings into this over the years with our family and friends' support. And that we're almost tapped out, to be quite honest. And that's why we're hoping to be successful with cannabis rather than just with hemp. However, you know, we were speaking about insurance. That is a pretty penny right now just to qualify for the minimal insurance that you need, let alone what will actually cover you if something happens or with your products. You know,
can I ask you how much an insurance policy might run you? You don't have to answer that if you don't want to. But
the bare minimum. So the bare minimum, if I'm not mistaken, is right around $4,000 a year. And that's tiered where most companies are asking you to pay at least 50% up front. And then, you know, you're financed at a not even a great rate, you know, for per month.
And what are we talking about for like liability coverage? What are we talking about?
I'd have to look at the policy. I am happy with the person that I'm speaking with for insurance. I'm not sure if he wants to be mentioned or anything like that.
No, that's cool. I've met a few guys that seem really nice.
No, I do have to say we've gotten great guidance on it, and I don't feel like anyone's really, you know, for lack of a better term, they're not trying to screw us. It's what they have to follow as well. It's the same thing with the CCB. You know, these guys, the insurance agents, they're following the guidelines, and I do appreciate that they're trying to find the best deal and trying to get us covered, because honestly, a lot of these guys that are insuring cannabis companies, they want to be growers themselves. They want to be retailers themselves. They want to be somewhere in the industry and help out because they believe in the movement. So I know that it's not their fault also, but it's like a marketplace. Only 1 or 2 companies will fund those insurance companies in order to fund us or in order to insure us. So there's not many options.
Have you dealt with the banking piece at all?
Yeah, unfortunately as well. Same thing. Great folks. VSECU is who we're dealing with, which pretty much almost everyone is going to be dealing with who wants an account. But the onboarding process is extensive, it's thorough, and they are understaffed. Everyone's understaffed, realistically. You know, the CCB has spoken about it. VSECU definitely. So everyone kind of understands as well. We've kind of been liaisons back and forth where we speak with someone, we update the other side, say, hey, you know, you've given us a month to do this, but I foresee it's going to take 6 to 8 weeks minimal. And every time we're very conservative on our bets, we're usually correct, which is nice to know, I guess, because we've preemptively done our due diligence. And anyone that watches this, please do the same thing. If they tell you don't worry about it for 2 weeks, you need to go to the other side, confirm, cross-reference, send a bunch of emails, call and speak to someone, because it really is the only way you're going to make it happen. Banking took about a month and a half, I want to say. The 6 weeks that I thought it was going to take.
And have you done any other banking with these same banks?
VSECU, no, it is our first time, but so far so good. They're, like I said, very nice. The business program that is helping us, you know, it's all new legislation for them too. But we have previously worked with North Country, which we would be moving over. They were nice enough to allow us to have an account for hemp, but it's the same thing. You know, there are a lot of extra fees associated. There's still a high risk company and industry for hemp and cannabis.
Unfortunately, it's just always, for every single thing we do, there's a cannabis tax.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's insurance. It doesn't matter if it's for every single
online merchant, everything for our website. I mean, there's an extra tax or extra.
And you said you guys have owned some other businesses in the past. Have you dealt with the same kind of extra tax like with your other businesses?
No, it's you can,
easier.
and with less credibility, you know, we've had a few years on the books, you know, successful, not profitable, but successfully. And we're very strict on how we manage all of our paperwork, but we still cannot qualify for any type of loan or any type of grants just because of the check mark that says we're a high risk company.
What about the social equity fund? Have you looked into that at all?
Yes, we hope that in the future we can qualify for the social equity fund. The CCB recently spoke about it in one of the meetings, and it's a little ways away. I think it's a few months out from possibly even being, you know, something being released, but we're hopeful that they see companies like us the same way that the initial program, you know, got us in.
But they even need to update their verbiage. Talking with the banks, they're still saying marijuana, and honestly, there's no reason why you should be saying that if you're not a Spanish speaker. It just doesn't make sense at this point. Everyone knows it's cannabis.
Yeah, all the derogatory terms are still being used.
Yeah, I noticed. I noticed that in their publications, and it was like, boy, I could have sworn the state had a whole vote on that where they decided this was the language you're using, and
yeah, we're grateful that these companies are allowing it at all, because we wouldn't be able to operate without all of these sides of the industry. But we understand
but the language shows that they're still a little bit, they're still catching up.
Yeah.
You know, there's still a lot of stigma with it. That's why there's all the taxes with it. It's just not spinning out.
I'm gonna shut up on that one for a second. Look, I want to ask you guys, we've had a good hour here. I want to ask you, before I go, like, I'd like to ask everybody, if you could rewrite the legislation, what would you keep, or what would you throw out or change? You guys said you followed that very closely. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that, if you wouldn't mind.
Never thought about it to give a 30-second elevator pitch.
No. That is and you see, you got that. That is my 30-second elevator pitch. But we have at least a half hour here, so think about it. And I'd love to know what you would change in this legislation, if you could.
Huh?
Or
if it's perfect, it might be perfect too. I don't want to.
Nothing is perfect, but I do want to at least commend that they're not doing it the way California did. I think we could have gotten very screwed. Big companies could have gotten right in, and little farms like us wouldn't even be able to exist, have a chance. The market would be saturated immediately. And there are wrong ways to do it. And I see like a good intent, at least on Vermont.
Yeah, definitely.
Part in doing it differently and trying to do it the best way that they can.
Yeah, that goes hand in hand with just allowing us to be, sitting in on these meetings. That's huge. We've spoken to other folks and other companies in other states to kind of understand what their state was like when they were registered and stuff, and what they allowed them to do. And this is from what I understand, this is the first, being allowed to sit in on these public hearings and see what they're actually meaning to do. And they honestly do listen to us. they have put out bulletins and said, hey, you're welcome to speak. And we have spoken in a lot of these meetings, and we love when folks, just like us, speak about it. And they do come back a few weeks later, and quite honestly, they address it. They'll address the reasoning behind why they wouldn't agree with it or just can't do it this time, but they'll put a note for it in the future. Or they'll say, you know what, this makes sense, we're going to pitch this. And that is why it's come back around a few times with changes. And I don't know, that's a very positive, I guess, note that I wouldn't change. They've done a great job about that. But I'll keep thinking about something that would change.
It's difficult. I wouldn't want to be a politician. I wouldn't want to be a legislature writer. I wouldn't want to be. I told
Kyle and Julie from the control board I would never want to have your job.
Yeah, definitely.
It's too much.
It seems like
you'll never please everyone. So
So I'm going to leave the last notes for you guys. Do you guys have any final notes that you would like to leave us with? Yeah, that's all you.
I don't know. Thank you so much again for the interview. We're stoked to be recognized, honestly, by our state, by our community, by, yeah, no, thank you.
We've had a great time meeting everybody that has had anything to do really with the cannabis community so far. We haven't had any kind of pushback. We're really open to learning. We're open to listening. We're open to, chatting and like I said, trials are big for us. So hearing anything different, hearing anything new, we're always open to trying. We're always open to running more trials. I don't think anyone ever becomes like a full PhD and will always know everything they need to know about this plant. It just keeps on giving. It's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, please. And if anyone that sees this, needs any more specific information or wants to reach out for any reason, snowbirdbotanicals@gmail.com. If we don't get back to you right away, it is because it's just us, but we would love to share any information that we have or, knowledge, and also to receive it from anyone. Like Cindy was just saying, we never think of ourselves as professionals or that we know it all. That's far from the truth. This plant there's a million things that we will continue to learn over the years.
It'll continue to teach us.
And we're always open for it. So
and that's another thing too, is maybe teaching a little bit to consumers that, sometimes the CBD that you're buying is not really being grown by the same person that's selling it to you. There are a lot of companies that they're CBD, kind of just the brand, and they're fully run by a whole marketing scheme and a whole company behind it that's really pushing it out there to you. And those are the ones that you might see the most of, and it might be more saturated in what's being advertised and targeted to you. But you might want to dig deeper, and you might want to really look into, hey, who are the farmers? Meet your growers, know your growers, kind of see behind the scenes, how is it being grown, what's being done with it.
Yeah, great point.
Yes, Cindy, that's what I'm doing. Yes. That was a great point.
And so, for everyone to support your local businesses, we want to work with, thankfully it is a closed system within Vermont for the industry, which is great because it does keep out, all these outside companies from coming in, even, not just growing here, but coming in general for the market.
They're already trying to come in.
Of course, they'll try, and I'm sure some might, get through and such. There's always a way, but for the most part, we see what were you saying before? You see they're trying, like what they are trying to do, and their intent, yes, and and we recognize that.
Well, that's a great note to leave it on. I feel like we should wrap it up, guys. I really appreciate your time. Ivan, Cindy,
Thank you.
Snowbird Botanicals. Best of luck to you guys, man. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. I'm glad we could finally get you on here. I know it's been a while. Thank you for being patient with me.
No worries. Thank you very much.
Yeah. All right. Best of luck, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. There we go. That was beautiful. Oh.